to talk a little bit about how in the world does a NAI men's basketball tournament bracket come about? I get asked about this all the time. I give very bad answers, so I thought I would take a few minutes and just try to walk through all the things that go into it. So the first thing really is, what are some of the elements? We'll talk about the elements and we'll go deeper into them. But there's your record and strength of schedule. This is your performance right here. And that performance creates a document called an RPI, which is basically your statistical strength, and something else called a quad record. Say that 3 times fast. And then those two things, and we're going to go through each one of these individually, those two things produce what's called an ARC rating. And the ARC rating is put out every few weeks. There's a schedule. I'll put up the link in the description. In fact, it's in the description. It has been for a long time. So these are the elements, the what do you call them? Like the basic elements. You get this information that we just spoke about, and it produces a document. These 3 things produce a document, RPI, and then produce the quad rating. And then you have automatic bids. You guys know what that is. Every conference gets 1 or 2 bids depending on the size of the conference. And then the next thing that has to happen is there's an NAI team made up of, I can't tell you who it is. I don't know. But it's just a bunch of coaches and people that are tightly associated with the game. That's the best way to say it. They have to go through, look at the 35, who are the next best 29, because they need to put together a field of 64. So that equals 64 teams. They put that together using this information, the RPI, the quad, the ARC rating. Okay, so what does all that mean? That 64 teams. The committee then seeds and builds a 4-quadrant tournament. You know the bracket I'm talking about. And each quadrant has 8 mini pods, what we call regionals. That's where 4 teams go to one place. And I'm assuming at this point is where they select, also who are going to be the host teams for each one. So they'll develop the 64 team based on seedings, based on all that input information. Then they have to go back and they have to review that for logistics, because teams can only travel so far, only so many plane tickets can be afforded. And then so they have to make some final adjustments to that. And that's where you get your final bracket of 64. So I've given you a lot of information. Let's kind of step back. I talked about ARC and RPI. This is the top 25 over here on the left, right here on the left. This, for the most part, means nothing. The ARC and the RPI, here's the schedule for this. Again, the link is always in the description of the show. We just had the latest version put out yesterday morning on February 16th. And then we'll get the quad rating on Wednesday. Not the quad rating, back up. We got that to Monday morning. We get the ARC rating, and I'll show you what that is in a moment. So let's take a closer look at all these elements that go into this. And we've talked about some of this before. Let's start with the RPI. That is a 100% computerized outcome from your performance. So your RPI comes from who you've played, what your strength of schedule is. This is strength of schedule, SOS rank. How many games you've won and lost. So you have a winning percentage. You have an OWP, which is opponent's winning percentage. And then you have OOWP, which is your opponent's winning percentage. And it all goes through, some magic school bus, and you get this number, whatever it is, 0.695 in this case for Huntington. So that's one piece of it. You receive and this is an older one right here. Don't pay attention to the names, but that you get an RPI rating. And then you have to look at the quad record, which we haven't talked about before, but we will now. So the quad record looks something like this, but it's pages and pages because every team in the country has a quad record. So let's go to the next one and explain what that means. So on this, you can see it's got your strength of schedule, your overall record, and then you see these things QU, QT, Q2, Q3, Q4. Those are quad 1 record, quad 2, and etc. The way it's determined, does it go in quad 1 or quad 2 and quad 3, is by the RPI of your opponent each time. If they're from 1 to 45 in the RPI and you're playing them at home, then it's a quad 1. If they're 1 through 65 RPI and you're on the road, they're a Q1. So in other words, a team could be, let's say they're 63 and you beat them on the road. That's a quad 1 win. If that same team comes back, this 63 team, and you beat them at home, that's now a quad 2 win. Because see, that would be a, see, where am I at? Yep. And you beat them at home 46 to 90. So 63 would be a quad 2. And it just goes like that all the way down. So the RPI of your opponent is critical in this. So whoops. So as you can see, every team in the country gets this quad rating. So the raters, the first thing they have to do is they'll look at your RPI. Then they look at your quad score. And it's really important. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. What they're trying to determine is we need to have teams that can win quality games. Those are the teams you need in the tournament. If somebody is only just winning quad 3 and quad 4 games, they're probably going to get blown right out of the tournament, probably not going to get an at-large bid, right? So, for example, I have no clue who this one is. They're 6-6 in quad 1, 6-0 in quad 2, unbeaten in quad 3 and 4. Okay, that's pretty good. That's good. Here's another team, 0-3 quad 1. That's a little tough. 1-1, 1-4 in quad 3 wins and 0-2. That team that's a bad quad. Now there's no calculation that says here is your quad score. This is something they simply have to look at and compare it to the RPI and see what makes sense as they determine which are the best 64 teams in the country, minus the ones that have already gotten automatic bids. I'm sure I've thoroughly confused you by now. I'm not sure how else to explain it. So then there's an ARC rating that plays into it as well. It's how are you rated within your own region. So every region has a group of coaches and some outside people that rank their region periodically, and you're ranked 1 through 1. They'll rank 16 teams. Let's take a look at that now. So this is how it comes out. There's 5 of them. I didn't get all 5 of them up, but the new one will come out on Wednesday. So what is this? There's 5 regions, so a total of 80 teams get ranked, 16 per region. There's a team that does this in each region, and they utilize the RPI, your quad, and their game knowledge, right? They're looking at this, and they're looking at the teams in their region, and they're saying, well, this team has a little bit stronger RPI, but this team is really on fire. A good example of that is in the last ARC rating that came out in the West. Rocky Mountain got bumped to number 1 because their performance had been, they've been playing so well. Their performance had been, you understand what I'm saying. So you count on these people to not only look at the numbers, but to use what they're seeing on the court as well. And so these quad ratings right here are put together you can see the schedule on there. It's every few weeks. Now they're more frequent, but this also goes into how will you be seated in the tournament. So you get 64 teams. They've used those numbers. They'll seed them. They'll build 4-quadrant tournament. You know what that is? There's the 4 quadrants with 8 mini pods within each quadrant. That's the regionals, as we call them. Once they get that built and they say, that's it, that's our 64 teams. That's how we want to seed them and pair them. Then they have to go back and they get more people in the room and they go, okay, does this work logistically? Because you can't have everybody, going all the way across the country. It's just not going to work. A few teams are going to have to, but you've got to really limit it, or else everybody's going to go broke trying to play in the tournament. So there's a logistical review. Then they'll make final adjustments. They'll make final adjustments, and then you'll finally get a bracket of 64. And every year you eventually get one, and we'll get one this year. So the key takeaways from this, sorry, I'm going backward on you. Get back up here. Is for your team, its performance and its schedule will produce an RPI. Their record, who they play, will produce a quad record. I'll try to get this back up there. Right there is the quad record. And then you get an ARC rating out of that. That's the quad record, sorry. And then your region, you get you're rated in your region, and all those things, this is what I was trying to get to. All of those things are mixed in with people in a room, and that's how each one of these quadrants are filled up. The reason I'm going through it is because, number one, a lot of people ask the question, what all goes into seeding and making a bracket for the national tournament. Another piece is, some people might look at it, and I've heard this before, there's 64 teams in the tournament, our RPI is 56, we'll get in. You might not, because there's teams that end up with an automatic bid that could be below that. They could be down. They could be a 75 RPI, but they won their tournament, or they were the runner-up in a tournament that gives the bid to the runner-up. And then, so that kind of steals a bid, if you will, from a team that was in that top 64. And as I said, there's other things they look at as well. When you get down close to that bubble, that I can tell you, I do know this, they're going to take a really, really close look at that your quad record. Because once again, the NAI wants teams in that national tournament that have shown they can win big games. And if you think about it as a fan, that's what you want too. You don't want a bunch of strong teams and a bunch of weak teams. You want teams that can compete and make the most competitive tournament possible. And I think if you've paid attention and you're not new to this, you've been around a few years, the NAI tournament has gotten stronger and stronger. These games are real, true battles. Back in the old D2 days, they went almost completely by the top 25, and that produced some bad matchups. And, you ended up with just a few, sometimes a few teams would really dominate. But doing it this way, I mean, every bracket can produce a surprise because they're getting the best teams. Hopefully that's not too confusing. What I'm going to do, I always put the show out on Substack, and I'm going to put a link to all this stuff so you can find it as well in the Substack. So you'll see the show and the description of the show, and then under that you'll see these links. Just remember that the ARC will come out on Wednesday morning. The RPI came out Monday morning, and the ARC will come out on Wednesday morning. But I'll put those links in. I think I can also get in that Substack all the automatic qualifiers and which conferences have one, which conferences have two, and how they are rewarded within each conference. Let me know if this was helpful or not. I know it's kind of getting down and it's very granular, and I apologize for that. But I just think it's an important primer, especially if you're new to the NAI. Anyway,